This episode is brought to you by Heyday. Feeling stressed? Take a moment for yourself with Heyday. Stroll through rows of golden wheat, tend to cute barnyard animals, and discover the joys of a digital farm retreat. You don't have to hop in a car or catch a plane. Escape to the farm at the tap of a finger. With Heyday, you're not just tending to a farm, you're tending to yourself. Heyday. Search Heyday, that's Hay space DAY, in your favorite app store. Heyday is a free-to-play mobile game and offers optional in-app purchases and random rewards.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40, created and hosted by me, writer and broadcaster Sam Baker. My guest today is the best-selling American novelist Jennifer Weiner. I first encountered Jennifer when her debut novel, Good in Bed, was thrust into my hands by someone I worked with on Company magazine. It was the first time I'd ever read a mainstream novel whose lead character was a fat woman who didn't need fixing. Good in Bed was a smash hit on both sides of the Atlantic, but for some reason it's taken until now to make its way to the screen. It's being adapted by HBO as we speak and starring Mindy Kaling. Jen followed that up with In Her Shoes, which was also made into a movie starring Cameron Diaz, Toni, Collette and Shirley Maclaine. And since then, she's written 15 more novels and an essay collection, as well as writing a column for the New York Times. Like Jojo, Moyes and Marian, she has an unerring talent for being able to make you laugh and cry and nod in recognition, all on the very same page. Her latest, The Griffin Sisters' Greatest Hits, is another surefire hit, tackling sisterhood, our relationships with our bodies, how we're endlessly judged on our looks, and the way the world and the music industry treats women.
The personal is political, joy is political, entertainment is political, and there's nothing wrong with, a fun book every once in a while that maybe has something serious to say too.
Jen joined me from home in Philadelphia to talk so much good stuff. We discussed Trump, Nora Ephron, body image, aging, her mum coming out, wishing she had her daughter's boundaries, why she loves writing middle-aged women, and so much more. Well, thank you for fitting me in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for talking with me.
Gosh, not at all. Not at all. I absolutely loved the Griffin Sisters. I love them.
Thank you.
How many interviews have you done so far?
Oh, Lord. It's been a day. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. I lost track somewhere.
Oh, what, already today? Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're beating me like a drum. And I don't know when I'm going to be old enough to just set better limits, I think that women are just socialized. We want to make everybody happy and we never want to say no. And we want to do everything that anybody asks of us. And we feel terrible about being like, no, that's too much. No, I can't do that. No, I'm done, and then you end up just exhausted and resentful.
Exactly. You must have been writing bestsellers for nearly 25 years and you still don't feel like you can go, guys.
Yeah, no, because it's you want to be a good team player and you want to be a good sport and the good news is my daughters are excellent at boundary setting. They are like, no, that is too much, that I don't have the emotional bandwidth for that. And I'm like, how did you happen? Where did you come from? Teach me your ways,
Are they teaching you their ways?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you know what? I can't tell you how many women I speak to with daughters, kind of Gen Z daughters. What are your daughters, about 15?
17 and 21. Yeah.
17 and 21. And so many women I speak to who have daughters around that age are just like, where did it come from and why haven't I got any of it?
Exactly. I mean, like the boundaries, the body confidence, you're not going to talk to me like that, that's sexist and I'm going to tell you it's sexist. Like my therapist is like, you should be really, really proud because you're the one who made them this way. And I'm like, why can't I make myself that way?
Yes.
I mean, it's great for them, but what about me?
They must have got some of that from watching you. You must have been a good role model.
I'd like to think so. I would.
Take that praise.
Yes.
Keep it.
Okay. All right.
Well, where shall we start? Let us.
Wherever you want. I am an open book.
Is there anything you haven't talked about today that you might like to talk about?
I will talk about anything that you want to talk about, but I'm always happy to talk about my daughters and the next generation of young women and how things have changed and how things have not changed enough.
In the Griffin sisters, so you've got your two main characters, Cassie and Zoe, who we will talk about, but there's also Cherry. Mm-hmm. So did you use your daughters for some inspiration for Cherry, the younger?
I absolutely did. Yes. Pretty much any young woman these days that you're meeting in one of my novels is going to have like a big scoop of either Lucy or Phoebe or both of them in there somewhere. And I think Cherry especially is untroubled by the things that her mother worried about so much. You know, I think that Zoe was very, very aware in her era of pop stardom of what she was expected to look like, how she was expected to perform, not as a singer, but as a young woman. You know, the box she was meant to fit herself in, the look that she was supposed to have, the story that she was supposed to be telling about herself. And I think that Cherry does not care. You know, she's like, I'm going to shave off my hair and then bleach it with Clorox and have like a rat tail and dress in baggy boys clothes because that makes me happy. And I'm going to go to Alaska and try to find this aunt I've never met. And I'm going to pursue my ambitions, not feel conflicted about it, not feel unladylike for going after what I want with every fiber of my being.
Quite often when I speak to people for this podcast, they talk about the fact that as they've got older, they've started to worry less about all that stuff that maybe plagued them. Mm-hmm. But they often talk about how they worry about young women. Yeah. But it's interesting that what you're seeing with your daughters is kind of that they aren't falling for that in the same way. They aren't being plagued by it quite so much.
I believe that my daughters, in the environment they've been raised in, which is a very progressive city in a blue, still state on the East Coast. My older daughter went to an all-girls school that was very, very adamant about telling these girls that they could do anything and they could be anything and teaching them to advocate for themselves. Like that was something that school did an amazing job of, is saying to the parents, it's not your job to fight your daughter's battles. Like if she's unhappy with her grade, if she thought she should have gotten a better part in the school play, if she thinks that her soccer coach should be starting her, let her advocate for herself. Let her learn to make that case. And boy, can my daughter advocate for herself. And I will never forget this. So like, she's 18 years old. It's her first summer after college. She's studying theater in New York City. She applies for a job. They offer her the job. They offer her $20 an hour, which I think is a decent amount of money for a teenager. And my daughter says, I'd like you to pay me $25 an hour because I have this skill, and this skill. That was my thing.
Wow.
She's telling me this, and I'm staring at her, and I'm going, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Except, because I'm telling this story to all of my friends, right? And they're just like, hello, she came from you. And I'm like, I was not like that as a young woman, except I'm going through like all of my old like newspaper clippings and letters and all of my like college stuff. This television show is doing a piece about me, and they asked for pictures and like articles that I'd written and stuff. So like I'm going through all of the boxes, and it's like, this is your life. And I found a letter that I'd written to the very first agent who was interested in my very first book, right? So for those of you who are listening who do not know how this works, when you are a novelist, you write your novel, you finish it, and then you have to try to find an agent who's going to try to sell it to a publisher. So here I am, I'm like 29 years old. I've written Good in Bed. I'm trying to find an agent. And this woman tells me she likes the book. She thinks I'm a good writer. She would like to represent me, but she says, I showed your manuscript to a friend of mine who is a movie producer, and he had a real problem because your heroine is fat. No one wants to see a movie about a lonely, pathetic fat girl. She said, so what I think that you need to do is make this woman maybe like 15 pounds overweight, like Bridget Jones. People like Bridget Jones. If you make your character like that, then I'll work with you, and then I can sell this book. So this woman was and is a very powerful, well-known literary agent. Like, I remember being so excited when this woman called me, and I'm just like, I can't believe it. I'm finally going to get an agent. She's going to sell my book. I'm going to be famous. It's all going to happen. And then she's telling me this, and there's a part of me, I remember thinking, well, she knows what she's talking about. Like, she knows the business. She knows the industry. If I don't do this, maybe this book will never become a book. But then another part of me thought, if I make these changes, and if that's the book I end up putting out into the world, I am not going to feel good about myself, and I am not going to feel good about that book. And I wrote her this letter, and I said, I'm very grateful for your interest, and I'm grateful for the thought you've put into this and the time that you spent with my characters. I'm not going to make these changes. I don't feel good about it. I don't agree with what you're asking me to do. And I am sorry if your film buddy, who, by the way, I did not give you permission to share my book with, but sorry if that guy doesn't, I disagree, and I'm going to find another agent. Goodbye. And I'm like, how did I do this at 29, like knowing nobody in the business with no connections? I was a newspaper reporter, and it's like, I think that sometimes you rise to meet the moment. And I think that was a case that I did.
I think we can say with confidence that if you had rewritten that character, it may well have been published, but I think it may also well have vanished without trace.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And because there's a very famous quote by Toni Morrison, and it goes, if there is a book that you need to read and it's not on the shelf, it is your job to write it. Okay. So like, I knew the book I needed to read, and it wasn't Bridget Jones, because I'd read Bridget Jones. Bridget Jones was out there. She existed. I needed to read a book about a woman who was a size 16 at the beginning of the book, when she is lonely and brokenhearted and thinking that losing weight is going to fix all her problems. And at the end of the book, she's gotten everything she ever wanted, and she's still a size 16. Like, that was what I needed, right? And I think there were a lot of other women who needed that book too. So,
well, we should say as well that any Brits listening, that a size 16 is a size 20 in the UK.
Yes, sorry. Yes, we should.
Just so it's
right.
Clear both ways. So is that what you had done? Had you set out to write a book where you could see yourself?
That was how it started. I was writing the books that I needed, the books that I wished had been there, because as a kid, as a reader, whenever I encountered a larger woman on the page, she was either the funny best friend, the comic relief, or she was the before in the before and after. And she had to lose weight, and that was her journey. That was her plot. That was her story. So I needed books where it was different. And I think it started off like I'm writing the books that I need to read. And as I got older, as I became a mom, it turned into I'm writing the books that I want my daughters to read. Like I want to leave them kind of a roadmap that is going to offer a different path than everything that they're seeing in pop culture and now on social media, which thank God was not a thing when I was a kid.
Oh, man. Oh, I often think it was bad enough. It was bad enough being a kid in the 80s and the 70s without them being able to follow you literally under your bed.
Right. And you know, I remember like when my daughter was like 12 or 13 and she was like just starting to like be aware of TikTok. So she comes into my bedroom. She's like, I want to show you this funny video I saw. And she's scrolling to find this video. And it is one like what I eat in a day, how to drop 20 pounds in 2 weeks, you know, diet this and calories that and count your macros and do this workout one after another after another. And I'm like, why are they showing you this? And she's like, I don't know. I'm telling the algorithm I don't want this. But I think they get our girls and our boys too when they are vulnerable, and they tell them that they need to change. There's something wrong. They need to fix it. And that is where to spend their energy, their time, and their money. And, you know, I think that that is how they sort of keep women quiet and tractable and not making trouble. It's like if we're all worried about how we look and are we gaining weight? Are we aging? Are we appealing? Are we sexy? Could we walk that red carpet? Could we whatever? Like if that's where we're spending our emotional energy and our time, you know, we're not out there changing the world. And the world is scary, and the world could use some changing.
I feel like there's a bit of a turn back, and that's not a coincidence.
No, it is not. And I think that the more outrageous the provocations and the things that government is doing and the things they are taking away, the harder they're going to push this diet culture and this beauty culture and this trad wife stuff and this you better not look old and you better not look fat, because it's a distraction and it is a way of taking away our money, our time, our power, our confidence, our agency, while the billionaires are setting the planet on fire. And I'm sorry to be so political, but
no, go for it.
It just seems like, you know, every single day it's worse and worse and worse. And you go on Instagram and it's like diet, fashion, flower arranging. It's not good.
Do you feel like as a writer, you've got an obligation to address this stuff?
Yes. As a writer, I feel, so first of all, like the first and foremost, my job is to entertain. My job is to write a story that is engrossing and transporting and interesting and relatable, and that's going to keep my readers turning those pages and in that world. Like there's nothing wrong with escapism. And I think that there are books that do nothing more than that, and that's okay. And there's a place for those books. Like I believe that, but I also believe that stories have power. And when women tell the truth about their lives, that's when change starts to happen. So there's truths that you can tell in person. There's truth that you can tell in an essay, in an op-ed, in a piece of nonfiction. And there's truth that you can use fiction as your vehicle to sort of say, this is what it's like to be a woman. This is what it's like to be a woman in a body. This is what it's like to be a woman in this moment in time. And I do think that is just so important to talk about, because we're in a not great place. I mean, I say all the time, like, this is the worst timeline. Like, we have somehow stumbled into the worst version of 2025 that ever has been. And it's not our job to go quietly. It's our job to make a lot of noise and to say, this is wrong and this is doing harm, and we need to do better for our daughters and for their daughters.
I think I know where your daughters got it from.
Thank you. Thank you. That's nice. That's nice to hear.
This episode of The Shift is sponsored by Shopify. Is it just me, or does it seem like everyone is either starting a side hustle or becoming their own boss? And you know what they're hearing a lot? It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your own business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses, big and small, worldwide. Whether you're selling jeans or juice, books or blusher, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person. Covers all your sales channels, from a shop-front-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. It even helps you sell across social media like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And it's full of industry-leading tools that give you complete control without having to learn new skills like design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. What's lovely about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify will be there to empower you with confidence and control to take your business to the next level. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/shift. All lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/shift to take your business to the next level today. That's shopify.co.uk/shift. You know, you've talked a lot about the way that women's stories are kind of pushed aside and denigrated. And you know, when I was reading stuff earlier, and I'm sure you've heard this probably 4 times today already, but at the risk of that, I'm going to say it anyway. And I just noticed that in the New Yorker that you're described as like an unlikely, I think it's an unlikely feminist hero. And I can't remember what Slate said, but it was something even more bloody offensive. And I've written it down, and of course now I can't see it anywhere.
Right? Well, but if I'm unlikely, who was likely? You know,
exactly.
Like
who gets to say
who
that one person is
me?
allowed? Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're talking at this moment in time where even 3 months ago, I just don't think we would have been having the same conversation. So it's almost like, where do you go from here? Because obviously, I was going to say, do you think it's got better? Do you feel like women's writing, women's stories are less sidelined? But literally, as we talk, things are changing.
Yes. I mean, there was this moment of hope. And I've talked about it like in terms of body positivity, right? Like there was this moment, like we had Lizzo and we had Old Navy saying, we're going to carry every size of jeans in the store. We had retailers kind of embracing plus size women and our money. You know, we had lots of people, you know, designers sending plus size models down the runway. Like it looked like there was a shift, right? It looked like things were going to change. We had a Black woman running for president, you know, and it looked for a moment like that was possible. But then guess what? Here comes misogyny to yank that rug out from under you yet again. And now the pendulum has swung all the way back. And instead of body positivity, we have shrinking starlets on the red carpet, each one smaller than the next. And instead of a Black woman president, we've got Trump again. And the bloody eggs are still expensive. Guess what? He didn't fix it. Because a lot of people are just like, right, surprise. It's like people are like, no, he's a loudmouth and the tweets are really jerky, but the eggs and the gas, and it's so expensive. And it's like, okay, he has fixed none of that. None of that. Because, guess what? He can't fix the avian flu. But people don't care. People don't care. And I think that, the men who feel incorrectly that they are losing power just because other people are becoming more equal, like just because we all get to start at the same starting line. A lot of men have decided, well, they are being disadvantaged and stepped upon and discriminated against, and this must be addressed. And so here we fucking are. Sorry to curse, but
no, you're right. Curse away. It's fine.
Thank you.
It justifies being cursed about, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned just then, how incredibly thin people are getting on the red carpet. And some of that, I guess, some of it, but far from all of it, is Ozempic. What do you think about Ozempic?
Well, I think that it's very, very interesting after all of these years of being sold the idea that it was just about self-control and just put the fork down fatty. Well, guess what? It turns out that there is something chemical, endocrinological. I'm probably saying that really wrong, but this idea that it wasn't just about your willpower or your self-control, bodies are different. And boy, look at this. And so all of the corporations that were selling diets, Weight Watchers and Noom and Jenny Craig, and all of them are either out of business or they're selling these drugs now. I want a damn apology from these places. I want my money back. I want all of those hours I sat in Weight Watchers meetings back. On the one hand, there is a little bit of gratification because now people are just like, oh, maybe it wasn't ever that easy, and maybe it wasn't ever just about trying hard. But on the other hand, and I have to keep telling myself, progress is not linear. It's always one step forward, two steps back. The pendulum is always swinging. And right now we are in the middle of a particularly violent swing back. I get very sad looking at red carpets these days because there's just something that feels so regressive about these starlets who seem to have decided that the smallest one wins, and that the goal of the game is to make yourself so tiny that you're barely even there, right? Who profits from this? In addition to the companies that are selling these drugs, these medications, who profits when we as women decide that the goal is invisibility and that victory is disappearing, right? Who wins when we're not there anymore? When you can't even see us? And when you can't even see us, can you even hear us? Can you recognize that there are things that we need and things that we want and things that should be better? To me, it's all connected and it's all bad. And yet it seems like every other woman I know is on Ozempic. They are handing it out like candy.
It does feel like the objective is to take up as little space as possible. And it just feels to me like it's no coincidence that as there starts to be a movement, as you say, body positivity, but also older women speaking up and saying, do you know what, hang on a minute, I might have had some hot flushes, but I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that actually, because nobody's helping me, nobody's treating me. Mm-hmm. That they're kind of, just as they start to say, okay, well, we can probably have one more than Meryl, so we can have Nicole as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or we might let Demi make a film even, mm-hmm. But only if those women are really, really, really thin and look a lot and don't look their age.
who profits from this? Who wins from this idea that, like, in order to be a middle-aged woman existing in the world, you can only be so large and you can't have any wrinkles and you've got to be doing this workout and using this injectable, and even so, we're only going to let a couple of you like show up in public. Like, I mean, I think that the culture is broken. I think that, like I keep saying, I mean, we're in a really bad place, a really bad time. And it just blows my mind that, like, I was marching for abortion rights in college and I was out there waving a sign saying, we won't go back. And now, I mean, of all the things that I wanted to hand down to my daughters, my keep abortion safe and legal pins were not on that list. I did not think that they'd be having to again defend this and relitigate it and argue about it and push for it. I thought that was done. And, you know, now we're in a world where your geography and your level of economic privilege dictates how free you are. And that's not right.
No, I mean, I remember the first time I read, say, The Handmaid's Tale. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the first way that the women's rights taken away is restricting their access to their bank accounts.
Yep.
And, you know, it's like a couple of weeks ago, I had a semi-serious conversation with my husband about that, like semi-serious, mm-hmm. kind of joking, mm-hmm. because it kind of is starting to feel like anything could happen.
I agree. And yeah, and it's like, so right now in the States, there's a bill that is moving through Congress that is allegedly addressing the very serious problem of voter fraud, which of course is not a serious problem at all. And what this bill is saying is that if you are going to go vote, you have to have a document that matches your current full name, first and last. Well, more than 50% of women in America take their husband's name when they get married. And do those women have a copy of their birth certificate kicking around? Like, or a passport that was issued maybe before they got married? Probably not. Like, are they going to be able to go get one? I could really imagine the government just dragging its feet a little bit on that. And, oh, sorry, there's a huge backlog. We'll get to you next year. And now you can't vote. And I'm mostly thinking that isn't going to happen. And there's a part of me that's just, thank God I didn't change my name. Thank God, you know, because I'm very aware of, like, this is how it starts. Like, this is what it looks like. And I am resisting in every way I can. But you know, I think that there are a lot of women who are tired. You know, we did all the things in 2016 and 2017, and we got a Democratic Congress in, and we got Joe Biden elected, and now here we are again, and we're tired. And I think that it can be very tempting. You know, I've had those thoughts of, like, it's not going to touch me and it's not going to touch my daughters because I have money. I have money and I can do what women have always done, which is you leave the state, you leave the country, you go someplace else. Money offers a level of insulation, and privilege and whiteness offers a level of insulation. But at the end of the day, you know, it's how safe am I really if I'm already thinking that way?
It's horrifying, isn't it? Really horrifying.
And, you know, and there are people, like, I was reading, like, Rosie O'Donnell has left the country. She packed up and moved to Ireland. And it's like, well, you know, do I start looking at real estate in Canada, or do I stay and fight for what I think is a better version of America? The personal is political. Joy is political, entertainment is political, and, you know, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, a fun book every once in a while that maybe has something serious to say too.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, the thing about your books and Marian Key's books and Jojo Moyes' books, all have really serious messages in them, but using, humor and identifiability, is that a word? But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And relevance to women's lives to, I suppose, hide the fact that that's there because nobody, you're all Trojan horses.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Yes. And someday, maybe the Trojan horse won't be necessary and you can just walk through the gates being exactly what you are. But sometimes you need the sugar to help the medicine go down.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Do you feel, are you early 50s now? How is your approach to yourself, your body, your appearance? How have you changed as you've gotten older?
It's really, really interesting because I don't feel my age. I'm going to be 55 next week, actually. My birthday is coming up. And I think being a novelist means you're always in that beginner's mind place. At least for me, every time I start a new book, it's like I'm teaching myself how to do this anew. It's like every book I got to learn how to write a book or learn how to write that book. And so I feel like a part of me is still stuck in her 20s, kind of wide-eyed and oh, wow, this is really fun. This is really great. But boy, do I wrestle with the demands of looking a certain way, especially going on book tour, right? Because the time that it takes to get your hair dyed, get your eyelashes done, get your nails painted, get your clothes together. I wish, because for men, it's you just put on a tie and that's it. You're done. You're presentable. And for women, it's there's so much more work. And I really think a lot about the expense in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of everything of, looking the right way. And well, what even is the right way? Why can't I just let my hair go gray and wear comfortable shoes when I'm doing a speaking engagement? And I'm trying to I'm trying to be a little easier on myself, I think, just in terms of the presentation piece of it. Because again, it's I know my daughters are watching, I know lots of daughters are watching. And what do I want to tell them? How do I want them to believe they should be spending their time and their money? So I think a lot about it, and I'm not sure I've evolved to the fullest and best place I'm going to get, which is I'm going to care none about what I look like and what other people think of me. I'm not sure I'm quite there yet, but I do feel I'm a little less stressed about it than I was in my 30s and my 40s.
You just mentioned your daughters are watching. Did you think about that at all when you were kind of Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and whatever when they were growing up?
I wasn't. See, that's the thing. I did all that stuff in my 20s, right? And then once I had daughters, I was just I'm not doing intentional weight loss with girls in the house. I'm not going to let them see this. I'm going to exercise and I'm going to show them that, and I'm going to eat good stuff that I like and I'm going to show them that. And, I mean, even shapewear, I feel like so conflicted about that because like I got a drawer full of Spanx, and I like sometimes the dresses lay a little more, they flow a little better when you've got a little something on underneath. But then I'm just like, why am I doing this? And like, what is my 17-year-old thinking as she's watching me like hoisting this thing up over my hips? Like, what the heck, And do I want her feeling like she's got to hoist something over her hips in order to be happy and successful and feel beautiful in her own skin?
It's so difficult to shake off, isn't it, though? Because those messages that you get as a young girl, whether it's your place in the family dynamics, thinking again of Cass and Zoe in the Griffin sisters, or whether it's that, or whether it's the way, kind of the girls at school, they're kind of suddenly trying to shake that off because you're 30 or 50.
Yeah,
it's still there.
It's very, 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 very hard. And I, watching Ozempic, it's just like, wow. So I could just like give myself shots and just like drop 30 pounds. And then I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because I don't want my daughters thinking somehow that in my own mind, I have more value if there's less of me. Like that is not what I want to teach them. But I also really believe in fake it till you make it. Like nobody feels great about their body every single day of the week. And sometimes you just have to not say the things that you're feeling and just, you have to fake the love and the self-acceptance until you can feel it. And I wish that there was a magic wand that could just take away the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the aughts from all of us. And just, but there isn't. And so I think until that day comes, we just have to feign a virtue if you have it not, like Shakespeare said, and just fake it till you make it.
Can you envisage, writing older characters? Your characters still tend to be, you've got Zoe as a middle-aged woman in the Griffin sisters. Are you going to give us more fat menopausal, perimenopausal characters? The people need it, Jennifer. The people need it.
I agree with you. So the book I'm working on now, there are two protagonists. They are both in their 50s. One of them is a former supermodel. So she's very interesting to me to write because not only did diet culture have her in the chokehold, it had all of us in, but she was one of the people sort of presenting herself as this avatar of desirable femininity 30 years ago, right? So now she's got gray hair, she's got wrinkles, she's got a few more pounds, and now she's more trying to present herself as the aging naturally and aging beautifully. And you don't have to get a facelift. You don't have to get Juvederm. You can just accept yourself the way you are. But she's really struggling with it. And, she's one version of herself on social media where she's saying all the right things, and she's a different version of herself in her own head, which I think is true for many, many women. I think
so, yeah.
Sure. All of us are performing our lives in a certain way. Like if you've got Instagram, you're doing it too. And it doesn't make all of us part of the problem, but it just, it makes you think, it makes you aware of what are the stories that I'm telling? So yes, in the next book, which does not have a good title yet, I'm working on the title, but there's these two women in their late 40s, early 50s, former supermodel and a mom of a now young woman. And her career involves writing erotica, basically, like spicy fiction or smut or whatever you call it, but it's paranormal erotica. So it's all like werewolves and vampires. And
oh, yeah. So that horny werewolf stuff.
Yes, horny werewolves, exactly. It's dragons fucking, it's the whole thing.
Oh, you're having a field day, aren't you?
I am having so much fun, and I'm reading the most outlandish stuff, and I'm like, it's research.
Nice line, Mom.
Right? Exactly. My daughters were so horrified when they discovered there was sex in my books. Like, I don't think they've ever gotten over it. I'm like, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, how do you think you got here? They're like, ew.
Oh dear, bless them.
Mm.
I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting. I can't wait to see what you do with it. But I do wonder if the aging process is harder still, if kind of like Zoe in the book, that's been your currency, like it or not. If you've had those looks, the loss of them makes it harder than if you never did, maybe. I don't know because I didn't have them, but you know what I mean.
Well, first of all, I think you are very beautiful.
But
I love your hair. But yeah, I mean, pretty privilege is real. And I think that it's very much the coin of the realm. And so what happens when you sort of hit that age of like middle-aged woman invisibility? You know, where like suddenly like nobody's catcalling and nobody's staring and nobody's asking for your phone number in line at the coffee shop, which is something that both of my women in this new book are sort of experiencing. And in one way, it's very empowering to be able to move through the world sort of, you know, just with that kind of like nobody's grabbing onto you because no one's really looking at you. But on the other hand, it's like, why is no one looking at me? You know, like I'm still here.
Do you feel less visible now?
I mean, that's really interesting because I think I'm always like, you know, between being bigger and like not necessarily looking like a conventional supermodel. My dream is that someday we're all just going to be brains in jars and it's not going to matter at all what we look like because we're just brains in jars. But I mean, I guess I feel like my voice has always been the most visible, quote unquote, part of me, right? Like I can write essays, I can write novels, I can write op-eds, I can say something and people still will listen. So I guess I feel really, really lucky in that respect that I have found an audience as a writer, and that audience has stayed with me as I got married, as I became a mother, as I moved into my 40s, as I moved into my 50s, and they are still seeing me. And that is very gratifying.
And they're the most important people.
Absolutely. They're the ones who are going to change the world. I truly believe this. I think that middle-aged women who just decide that they are done with the nonsense and that they can see through some of the, you know, who is really profiting from the Ozempic and the Botox of it all. Like, we're the ones I trust and hope and pray who are going to get the pendulum moving in the right direction again.
Before I ask you the questions that I always ask at the end, I wanted to ask you a question about your mum, because you wrote for two reasons. One is that when I was researching the book of The Shift, there was, and I don't want to make it like it's everyone, but there was an interestingly large number of women who I interviewed who were fully over it with their husbands and either wanted out or getting out, but also a significant proportion of the women who had left for women.
Yeah.
Or if not left, they'd actually, I'm not saying that right, they'd left for themselves and their next partner was a woman. You were 26, weren't you, when your mum came out as lesbian?
Uh-huh.
So how old was she?
How old was she
when she became lesbian? Or
that's okay. So that is an excellent question. And I do not have an answer. And I can tell you, I don't know what the holidays were like in your house, but like in my house, after Passover or Thanksgiving, when the dishes were done and everyone was sitting around talking, it was like, that was like topic number one, was like interrogating my mom. Like, Fran, when did the urges start? And she's like, I'm not talking about this with you. But hilariously, I am now the age that my mom was when she had her, what we all thought was her first girlfriend. I'm not sure that was actually the case. But so my daughters have been joking all year that this is like my rainbow birthday, and like telling my husband that like, it's over, we're sorry, but she's going to be leaving for a woman very shortly. So far that has not been the case. But with my mom, I mean, I don't know what the truth is, but I believe that my mom was probably always bisexual. Like, I think she loved my dad. I think that was like a true couple, true partnership. But the other thing was my mom wanted children. She wanted to be a mother. And if you wanted children in the 1960s and in the 1970s, there was one way to do that. And that was to get married to a man. Or, I mean, maybe not even get married to a man, but there weren't single moms by choice back then. And there certainly were not gay moms who had children. Like, you got married and you had your kids and that was what you did. And maybe you stayed married, maybe you got divorced, but there weren't all of the choices that women now have. And I wonder, if my mom had been born like 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, what it would have been like, because now it feels like everyone is bisexual or pansexual or something other than heterosexual. Maybe my mom was just ahead of her time. I don't know, but I don't know if she like had girlfriends before my dad. If she did, it must have been like very, very, very much on the down low. But she was with her partner for almost 20 years, and right up until she died. And I think was her happiest and most authentic self in the second half of her lifetime. That's what I think. And I think about that a lot now that I'm sort of rounding the curve into the second half of my lifetime, is that it doesn't need to be like the death knell of desire or of reinvention or of contentment. It can just be like the starting line.
Thank you. And thank you for indulging my prurience.
No, listen, it's me and my siblings were like obsessed. We're like, so Fran, when did it start? Where did it come from? When will it happen to me?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not talking about this with you.
Questions I always ask. What is your emotional age?
I'm going to say 28.
Why 28?
Because that was when I wrote Good in Bed. That was when and I'd had some adulthood under my belt. I'd had some jobs. I'd had some boyfriends. I'd had some triumphs. I'd had some disappointments. But I think that was the year that I felt a sense of like, now the doors are opening for me.
Give us a book recommendation. So it can be something that's been really significant to you, like your whole life, or it can just be something great you read recently.
If you haven't read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, that was one of the like formative books that I read as a young woman. And I think it was one of the first times I saw myself in a character, because this was a girl that Francie, the heroine of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, is this girl, and you watch her growing up into young womanhood, just observing the world with a writer's eye and a reader's eye. And I loved that book so, so much.
What advice would you give younger women?
I think I would tell them that your looks are the least interesting part about you. And that's not where you want to be like spending your energy.
Do you think they'd believe you?
No. I mean, there's a whole industry out there telling them their looks are the most important thing. Why would they listen to me? But I would say it anyhow. I do say it anyhow.
Do you believe it yourself?
I do.
Who is your old broad role model? So older woman who inspires you.
So I am going to shout out the late, great Nora Ephron, who was creative and witty and incisive and generous to an entire generation of young writers. She was a friend and a mentor to so many young women, now middle-aged women. And I think that she didn't see fame and success as a zero-sum game. She really believed that there was enough to go around and she could lift up the next generation of women and make room for them and open doors for them.
Such a loss. What is your superpower?
What is my superpower? I am the best parallel parker you would ever want to meet. I can parallel park a minivan in a really tight spot, and I impress myself on a regular basis.
That is very impressive. That's
Thank
not
you.
to be sniffed at.
No. Mm-mm. And now they have cars where you just press a button and the car parks itself. I hate that. It's cheating.
God.
Right?
God damn AI.
Right?
Yeah.
Makes me so mad.
And last one, how many fucks do you give?
I have no fucks to give. I'm in like the negative fuck zone. Like someone would have to like be buying me fucks to give because I'm done. No more.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy The Shift and would like to show your appreciation, why not buy me a coffee? Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/The Shift with Sam Baker. You can hear a new episode of The Shift every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please do rate, review, follow, tell your friends, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback.